We are anticipating a couple of our directors joining us virtually and in person coming in late, so we will take note of that when they come, because we do have an item on the board agenda tonight that requires a 2/3 majority of the board to apply. And right now we do not have that, so hopefully we'll have that by the time we get there. So Gwen, are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
Yes, Madam Chair, we are in compliance.
Great. So next, the item is comments from the public. Our board policy states that no person may speak more than once to an issue or for a period longer than 5 minutes, except upon the consent of a majority of the district board. No more than 3 people may be heard to one side of an issue, except upon the consent of a majority of the district board. We do have 1 person signed up tonight for public comments, and that is Liz.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Liz Franchek, and I have been a part-time Spanish teacher at the college for the past 11 years. I'm also the executive director at the FAST Fund, an independent faculty-run emergency fund housed in the local 212. I am here today to voice 2 concerns. The first is regarding Dream Keepers, the college-run emergency aid. We recently found out that the fund ran out of money. While they will get new funding from the Wisconsin Technical College System on July 5th, these last few weeks have been an immense burden on the FAST Fund, a burden we did not anticipate nor plan for. Our applications have skyrocketed. Some of these students might be able to wait until their Dream Keepers funding comes through on the 5th. However, many more will not. During this short period where there is a lack of funds, students will be threatened with eviction. Their cars could get repossessed. Lights may be turned off, or childcare may be lost. Late fees will certainly accrue. FAST Fund works very closely with Dream Keepers to aid our students as much as possible. When the college-run emergency aid runs dry, can the foundation not step up to the plate and subsidize the cost for a few weeks? Or could her funds not be reallocated? The second concern I have is regarding a new policy on how students are expected to pay off debt and tuition. This past spring semester, seemingly out of the blue, students with debt at MATC received an email from the college. That email read, quote, "Thank you for being an MATC student. Our records show that you have a balance for spring 2022. All students must have their balances paid to 200 or less, or you will be sent to collections. All account balances are the responsibility of the student and must be paid by May 21st, 2022, end quote. After a lot of emails and phone calls, we were able to get some information on this new policy. But to our knowledge, it is not posted on the website, nor has it been wholly communicated with students. This is our understanding. 1, students must get their account balance down to 200 or less by the end of any term in order to register for the next term. 2, if a student has a balance of over $200 and they make no attempt to pay, they will be sent to collections and will not be allowed to enroll in future terms while still in collections. We have not heard back about if once a student pays off their debt with the collection agency, whether or not they will be able to re-enroll at the college. 3, if a student pays something but is unable to get down to that $200 mark, that student will not be sent to collections. However, they will also not be able to register for classes until they get their balance to $200. This policy was changed abruptly and clumsily. Students who received that email panicked. The first source of help listed on that email was the FAST Fund. We are the only source of emergency money available to MATC students to pay back past due tuition. In fact, since July 1st of 2021, the FAST Fund has paid $62,508.41 directly to MATC to help keep students enrolled in the college. What is the goal of this new policy? I agree that students should be responsible for paying for college. However, this seems an extreme approach. This policy does not seem to recognize the financial challenges faced by a large number of our students, many of whom are impoverished, the first in their family to go to college, or struggling to juggle school, family, and work. Additionally, enrollment is going to drop, not only because students are being asked to pay lump sums of money they don't have, and in turn being sent to collections, but imagine the PR message this gives to the community. Word of mouth is strong and convincing. Word will get out that MATC sends people to collections. Students will enroll elsewhere, and our state aid will diminish. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. all we have for public comment tonight. So thank you for addressing the board based upon Wisconsin open. Yes.
I'm sorry. Can I ask a question that's not about this, but about public comments?
Sure.
Like last month, people handed us some papers during public comments, which is a practice I was used to from days gone by. They were collected, and I just realized I was told at the time that they were going to be scanned and said, I did not receive them. Did other people receive them? Yeah, so I would like to receive them. I mean, obviously the public has a right to give us anything, whether it's good stuff, bad stuff, whatever, and we should be able to receive it. So,
yep.
Thank you. I just
Sure. Yeah, that
realized
relates to
when they were
last meeting,
talking.
but you're correct. There was nothing tonight, but yep. Yep. Thank you for that. Yep. So we will make sure that the board members get that. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there were 2 or 3 different things that were handed out to us. Thanks.
Okay. So, as I was saying that, thank you for addressing the board. According to the Wisconsin Open Meetings Law, does not allow us as a governmental body to respond to those specific items as they were not publicly addressed on the agenda, but we still welcome public comments. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. May I have a motion for approval of the minutes from our regular board meeting of May 24th, 2022?
I'll move approval.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? If not, we have a motion by Director Foley and a second by Director Mays to approve the regular board meeting minutes of May 24th, 2022. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I just realized that because it was down my next page, that it's also supposed to be the public hearing and the budget. So that should have been in that same motion. Sorry, or do I do those separately?
Separate.
Because the way I have it, okay, I'm going to take a separate motion because that's how it's on my notes here. So we also are going to approve the public hearing and the budget on June 21st, as that was a separate meeting. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the public hearing and the budget?
I'll move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion on those? If not, we have a motion by Director Baker and second by Director Foley to approve the public hearing and the budget minutes from June 21st. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Next, we're moving on to the approval of consent agenda items. May I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda items?
I'll move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions on any of the 5 items that are under the consent agenda?
I just have one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Director Baker.
For the human resource report, yeah, I noticed for June, a lot of resignations. Is that normal? Was that a normal amount? Is that a higher amount? We've sort of been tracking that this spring.
I would
Al,
ask
yeah.
Elba.
So, hi.
I was like looking for.
I'm not, usually this is the time of year that we do have retirees. And so sometimes are you talking about just the voluntary?
These were resignation, not retirees.
I don't have the latest report, but I can get that.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other questions on any of those items? If not, I had a motion by Director Foley and a second by Director Diaz to approve the consent agenda items. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have a series tonight of board action items as we normally do in the June board meeting, just because of the things that need to get approved. So we will start that series, and we have 3 of them actually tonight with our friends, Mr. John Meehan. So first, as he's making his way up here, our first item is the resolution F02300622, authorizing the sale of $1.5 million general obligation promissory notes, series 2022-2023A of the Milwaukee Area Technical College. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Meehan.
Great. Good evening. I'll walk through the handout here for the $1.5 million note issue. The sale was held this morning. We took the typical method of applying for the rating, have the official statement, having it posted, and soliciting bids. We only got 1 bid, which is Fidelity Capital. The good news is Fidelity Capital actually bought it last month as well. They're one that has bid on a number of the issues. Additionally, their interest rate at 2.39 is lower than last month, which was 2.54. So why only one bid? Well, I think it's because it's June 28th. And as the week goes, the market's closed Friday. Early release on, or next Monday, early release on Friday. You could see all of a sudden that people are leaving the office. Investors are leaving and not paying attention. It's just a natural time where you fall through people not being as engaged. That's one of the reasons. The second is there were a number of other issues that were in the market that were of a larger size and therefore would have more eyes on them. If there's an issue that is at 15 million, they're going to spend more time on that than a 1.5 million. That's reality. The third thing is we're going to take a look at the bid specification. We may want to alter those a little bit to see if they could be a little more attractive for the next series. We've typically allowed that the bidders can pay a premium, which they do, of MATC up to 104 or $60,000. This bidder paid $59,950, which means they're right up to the bid spec. The actual coupon rates are 3 rates of 4% and 1 of 3%. My educated guess on this is that 3% is because the bid spec would force them to be at a 104, forced to 3%. As rates have gone up, we want to make those a little bit more attractive for more bidders to show up. So we'll adjust the bid for next month. But overall, it's still a 2.39%. It's still lower than it was last month, and it's good to see Fidelity submit the bid. As far as the note issue itself, it's the 1.5 million. It settles on July 13th, which of course that means the funds arrive at MATC. Maturities are 24 through 27. So this is a point that we move the maturities out one more year. Had no effect on the bid, but that's just the cycle. The first interest payment is December 1 of 22. You have bid premium from this issue to make that payment. So we're not worried about that payment. They're non-callable. And as I mentioned, Fidelity Capital Markets is a winner. When we roll to the next page of the overall financing plan, I apologize, I know how small type this is. This is the first series for 22-23. This is A. The next series, and it's on your agenda, you're authorizing a parameter resolution. I'll spend a little more time talking about the parameter resolution. Let me just say that we get into a calendar where you can't have the sale within 15 days of each other. So today's June 28th, July 11th is your next board meeting. We get into a box, and therefore we have to do a parameter resolution to make sure we're out of 15 days, just outside of the cycle. That's not unusual. It happens almost every year that we run into this kind of timing issue. The issue after that will be the big issue, which sells in August, which is also the initial resolution on your agenda. So we're often running as far as the issues. As to the credit report in the back, it's what Moody's refers to as the press release. It's the same language as last month. It'll continue to be the same language as last month until they get the new audit. So it would be natural that they say, you have no new information from the last time we talked. Language is the same. We look forward to seeing your audit when it comes out in November. So there's a time period there. Now, granted, valuations will come out, some other information will come out, but the audit doesn't come out for a few months. So overall, what I just covered is in the resolution prepared by your bond counsel. And we recommend that you award the sale to Fidelity Capital Markets. I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Dr. Foley.
This is a little derivative, but the city has been facing a budget cliff for some time, and the federal funding that's been available the last couple of years has pushed that out. But in a year or two, unless something dramatic happens, there's going to be some really bad news about the finances of the city of Milwaukee, I expect. Do you think that will have any impact on our bonds and how they are viewed by Moody's?
No, that's a great question, and no. And the reason I say that is right now the city, and don't test me on this, but I think they're an A2. So they are well below the threshold that you were at.
Okay.
There are times in different credits where they'll talk in terms of what's the county rating, which is a bigger taxing authority, beyond a municipality, and how it affects. But Moody's isn't even into that so much as they look at what other technical colleges are rating. Where do you stand with your peers, in essence? So the city's finances will not have an impact on MATC's rating. How about that?
Thank you.
Any other questions? If none, we have a motion by Director Foley and a second by Director Diaz for resolution F 0230-06-22, authorizing the sale of $1.5 million general obligation promissory notes, series 2022-2023A of Milwaukee Area Technical College. Could we have a roll call vote, please, then?
Just one moment. Director Case. Director Diaz.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos. Director Mays.
Aye.
Director Wilson. Director Baker.
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Case.
We're good? Okay, well, we have,
She's coming now.
okay. We have 5, but she wouldn't have heard that, so I'm not gonna hold back in order for her to take that because she would have needed to hear that to take a vote. So we are moving on to the next resolution, which, as you shared, is F 02310622, authorizing the issuance and establishing the parameters for the sale of not to exceed $1.5 million general obligation promissory notes, Series 2022-2023B of Milwaukee Area Technical College District. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll move approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Just a question. Are these the items that we need the 2/3?
No, there's one that's down a little bit on the passing of the budget. So
I
there's only that one.
understand.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Within the parameter resolution, and the parameter delegates the authority to Jeff really to say, okay, this bond sale can be approved. And once again, it goes to a timing. That's where we are on calendar dates. We're intending to offer the sale on Wednesday, July 13th. Okay, so we're outside of the time frame. It can be approved as long as it doesn't exceed 1.5 million, as long as the final maturity isn't past 2027, as long as the true interest cost is no higher than 5%. We just had one at 2.39. So those are and no less than 100% or 1.5 million. So those are the parameters. As long as the bid meets those, then it can be approved, it can be awarded. And upon your approval of this resolution, we'll go ahead and move forward with the distribution of the bond documents. Okay, if I answer any questions.
Everybody clear on what we're approving here, just on the timeline? Okay. Seeing no questions on that, we have a motion by Director Baker and second by Director Mays for resolution F02310622, authorizing the issuance and establishing the parameters for the sale of not to exceed $1.5 million general obligation promissory notes for Series 2022-2023B of Milwaukee Area Technical College District. Glenn, can we please have a roll call vote?
Sure. Director Diaz.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos. Director Mays.
Aye.
Director Wilson. Director Baker.
Aye.
Director Case.
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Wilson.
Okay. We'll move on to item C, which is resolution F0232-06-22, authorizing the issuance of $22.5 million general obligation promissory notes, which is Series 2022-2023C of Milwaukee Area Technical College. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Meehan.
Now, all I would say about this issue, it's the initial resolution. The intent is to sell it in August. The separation of time is that, as you know, you're limited to $1.5 million for remodeling per meeting. And so this is the sale that we always combine that with your equipment borrowing, which is $21 million. I can't speak to the equipment list, but just to say that's why the structure is one issue, 22.5 million, takes place in August.
Okay, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion by Director Mays and second by Director Diaz for resolution F0232-06-22, authorizing the issuance of $22.5 million general obligation promissory notes, series 2022-2023 C of Milwaukee Area Technical College District. Glenn, can I have a roll call vote?
Director Foley,
Aye.
Director Mays,
Aye.
Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Diaz,
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Looking forward. Thank
Yep, see you in August.
you. In August.
Next, item D is resolution F0233-06-22 to approve the fiscal year 2022-23 renovation remodeling capital projects. This was reviewed in April, if you remember. So do I have a motion?
I move approval.
I'll second.
Thank you. Janice, is there anything you'd like to say, or do any board members have any questions?
So this is the same list of projects you saw in April as being proposed through our prioritization process, how we select our capital renovation projects for next year. So we have to answer any questions that you may have.
Not seeing or hearing any. So we have a motion by Director Foley and second by Director Baker for resolution F0233-06-22 to approve the fiscal year 2022-2023 renovation remodeling capital projects. Glenn, could you please take a roll call vote?
Director Mays,
Aye.
Director Wilson, Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Diaz,
Aye.
Director Foley,
Aye.
and Director Olson.
Okay. So I believe we have our majority. We have at least 6 people here to take the next resolution on. So this is the resolution F0234-06-22 to adopt the fiscal year 2022-23 budget. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second?
Second, Tiffany.
We looked at this recently, so this shouldn't be new to anybody, but Jeff, is there anything that you would like to share? Any changes you'd like to point out?
No, are you still talking about the capital? Is that what you're referring to, or are you referring to the next item?
The fiscal year budget item?
Oh, the fiscal year budget, yes. The same information that was shared at the public hearing is the same budget that we have. There's an electronic version of the budget book was shared, and you have a hard copy. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer anything that you would like to, specifically, you would like me to answer. I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, Director Baker.
You guys know I'm a detail nerd, right? And, I have to say, like, I looked at the electronic and I was hoping I would come in and there would be one of these in front of me. Because I know we have to print a lot of the boilerplate stuff and put that into all of our reports, but it's like everything about MATC in one place, including all the numbers. So, thank you.
Can I make one comment?
Sure.
Amelia Meinhardt and Eva Keither were the key orchestrators of the budget book. She's our budget manager, and Eva Keither is our controller, and she worked with many, many people, marketing, and all different areas to put the information together. So I'm very grateful for the work that they do on this each year. So just wanted to recognize that.
And thank you for that. And thank you to them for putting that together. Okay, if there are no more questions or comments, we've had a motion by Director Foley and second by Director Mays to adopt the fiscal year 22-23 budget resolution F0234-06-22. And we do need a 2/3 majority vote for this to pass. So could we please have the roll call vote?
Director Mays,
Aye.
Director Wilson, She's muted, I think.
Oh, there she is.
Director Baker,
Abstain,
Director Wilson,
abstain. I didn't hear it all. I've been trying to make this work.
Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Diaz,
Aye.
Director Foley,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye. Do we have 6 yeses? I just want to make sure.
yes.
Okay, so we're all over the place here. So, okay, so that passes, which is needed. So we'll do that. We're going to move on now to item F, which is resolution F0235-06-22 to establish reserves for the fiscal year 2022-2023. And this is a statutory requirement. So do I have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions on this motion or what's being done here? Okay, seeing none or hearing none, we have a motion by Director Baker and a second by Director Mays to pass resolution F0235-06-22 to establish the reserves for the fiscal year 2022-2023. This is just a voice vote, so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, we'll move on to item G, which is resolution F0236-06-22 to authorize contingency payments of bills and awarding of contracts. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Thank you, Director Wilson. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Mays? Any questions, comments? This again also is statutory requirement.
It allows us to pay our bills
Yep.
during the month of July.
Okay. No questions? Seeing and hearing none from those of us who are on virtually, we have a motion by Director Wilson and seconded by Director Mays to pass resolution F0236-06-22 to authorize the contingency payment of bills and awarding of contracts. This is a voice vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay. We're moving on to item H. As I said, there's a lot of action items at this meeting. So resolution F0237-06-22 to approve the insurance coverages through the district's mutual insurance and the Wisconsin Technical College Insurance Trust. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Director
Second.
Diaz. And Director Wilson, thank you for the second. Any questions? Again, one of those statutory things we need to do. Okay, if there are no questions, we will take, there's been a motion by Director Diaz and second by Director Wilson. We will take a voice vote on resolution F0237-06-22 to approve the insurance coverages through the district's mutual insurance and the Wisconsin Technical College Insurance Trust. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Item I is resolution F0238-06-22 to approve the 3-year facilities plan, which is also a statutory resolution. Do I have a motion? And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Director Baker and second by Director Mays. Any questions on this?
Were there any changes?
Yeah, I guess, Janice, were there any changes to that?
So the first year that you have in there is the ones you just approved earlier in the meeting, and then the second 2 years are planned out, prioritized again, but there will be subsequent changes to those lists. They always do change from year to year, but we will bring those changes back to you when we approve next year's project prioritization. So it will be changed. And if there are any changes throughout the course of the year to reallocate funds from one project to another, that will also come before the board for approval.
Okay. Any additional questions on this item? As we are required to pass this. So we do have a motion by Director Baker and second by Director Mays to approve resolution S0238-06-22 for the 3-year facility plan. This is a voice vote. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're moving on to item J. Resolution F0239-06-22 to approve the compensation recommendation for employees covered by the collective bargaining agreements. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Okay, thank you, Director Wilson, and then Director Baker has the second on that. Any questions or comments on this item? Director Baker?
Sure, I'm happy to approve it. I'm happy to see we have a tentative agreement. I just one comment from my experience in years gone by, which I promise I'm going to stop referring to that at some point. Usually administration would come to the board in closed session at some point and say, you know, what are the parameters? What windows do you want us to be in or something? And I gather we're not really doing that as much anymore, but I think like going forward as a board, I feel more comfortable if we knew a little something about the progress. You know, maybe partway through or something that we could ask for that from administration in closed session as a contract negotiations, just to report out on it. I'm pleased with this. It's not a criticism of anything. It's just something I wouldn't mind seeing in the future.
Others, questions, comments? Okay. Seeing none, we do have a motion by Director Wilson and second by Director Baker for resolution F0239-06-22 to approve the compensation recommendation for employees covered by the collective bargaining agreements. This is a voice vote. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. We will move on to item K, which is resolution F0240-06-22 to approve compensation recommendation for administrators and staff. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Mendieta Ramos. And
Second.
thank you, Director Mays. Any questions or comments on this? Okay, not hearing or seeing any. We do have a motion by Director Mendieta Ramos and second by Director Mays for resolution F0240-06-22 to approve the compensation recommendation for administrators and staff. This is a voice vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Whew, okay.
Well done.
That was a marathon of action items. So we're moving on to the policy review. This is the first read. There is no vote on this tonight, so there will be discussion. So this was came out of a board discussion a little bit ago, 2 months ago, in that we sort of looked at what this meant as we were talking about communicating or responding. And I think when we said, hey, there's a policy around this and it hadn't been really revisited for a while in the context of how we're looking at things. And we did sort of have some template boilerplate language, but that is typically the procedural part or the guidelines that come out of the original policy. And so without having the policy there to guide that, we're sort of like in between limbo here. So it gave us some in between templates to look at should we be contacted, but really we need to go back to the policy itself. And so Janice has taken an opportunity to go through that language as you see that's in there, as you can see what that is. So I'm going to right now, Janice, if you want to share what you have, and then we will open it up for discussion with the board.
Yeah, so what we did is we took, and maybe I should come up there.
Yep.
What I did was take an existing policy that's already on the books. And so the title of this policy is up for discussion because I think it may be a bit broader than what we have here today. But this is just trying to add some content to this particular policy, which I believe gets at some of the issues that we heard a month or two ago about the board recognizing their duty to respond to constituencies and employees and staff here at the college. So it's just kind of setting language in there that talks about how you get that input from your constituencies and stakeholders of the college. And then we would incorporate the procedure, some of the language that you looked at, I believe, last month in terms of the template language, and then who responds if it goes to the board chair or if it goes to another member of the board. So we would just build that procedure that underlies this policy, so that it's clear to people who look at our policies and procedures that this is the way in which the board operates. So certainly any changes, comments, certainly, welcome all of that to how you really want this to be. This is just to be a first draft. So.
Janice, do you have a suggestion for a different title? Because I would agree with you, it's sort of a little, it doesn't really align with what seems to be in it now.
It does, it does speak to who's authorized, but it also is more about how the board authorization to represent the district board and respond to constituency contacts or something. I don't know. I could work on a title that better aligns, but I wanted to put it out here first to see if it is in alignment with what you were looking for. And if it is, then we can work on wordsmithing a title.
Okay. Thanks. So I will open it up for comment or questions to any of the board members.
Question.
Dr. Wilson?
Comment or whatever. Yeah, representation. I just had a representation and authorization of the district board.
As a suggestion for the title then?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, great, thank you. Janice is writing that down, so. Dr. Baker.
I think this reads really nicely. I think a part of it is sort of like the authority of the board, like, because we have a policy that says we delegate the running of the college to the president and the administration. And this is a little bit like who speaks for us and how do we receive information. And so it makes sense all in there. And, I think it reflects our conversation well and reflects what the statutes allow us to do. So, I took a look at it before I came. I'll take a deeper look at it, but on first blush, I think it does a nice job of reflecting what we were looking for.
Anyone else with comments or questions?
And just one other comment, I think some of the work that you might be doing in your retreat is looking at some of your other board policies. There are some others that I thought maybe we could look at and start thinking about, but I think if we start here and then I tried to start doing that and it just became, I think there's going to need to be much more discussion here about what you want those others to look like. So this is kind of the first one that we're starting with based on those discussions you all had, I think in May or April. Okay.
So the plan would be then to bring it back in August for approval. So if people look at it again and either have some questions or whatever, please bring those forward so we can look at this besides the title then, and then we can move forward with approval of this in August. Yeah.
Question about that timing.
Yeah.
We will have 2 new board members at that point who will not have had any opportunity to think about this. Unless we do something between now and then to let them know that this is happening. And I think we should make that communication to them once.
Good. One is here in person and one is here virtually. So that would be great opportunity. And we will have our board retreat then. So in July. So I do think that will be intentional that they review this. And so we can make sure that that's on there as part of our retreat agenda to make sure they feel equipped to take a vote on that and feel confident in the vote that they're taking. Yep, that's a good point. Thank you. Okay, there is no action on that. Are there any other, if there's none? Thank you, Janice, for your work on that. I think it met what we were trying to accomplish before. Thank you very much on that. So we will move on to reports. And the first one is our chairperson's report. I haven't talked enough already here. So the next, this is, and Director Wilson, I'm glad that you were able to join us because this is your last meeting. And I do have, we will have to get it to you, but I have, for people who are here can see this. I have this lovely plaque for you. Are you able to see this?
A little higher.
Unmute yourself.
There you go.
I'm going to read it, but I just wanted you to be able to see that. So I'm going to read it out loud for everybody who's here and is watching. So this is a resolution of appreciation to Ann Wilson, on June 28th, 2022. Whereas Ann Wilson began her appointment to the Milwaukee Area Technical College District Board on July 1st, 2006. And whereas Ms. Wilson served with distinction as a board director for nearly 2 decades. And whereas during her 6 terms as board director, the college and its students appreciably benefited from Ms. Wilson's dedication and commitment to the district. And whereas the college's accomplishments during her service included the introduction and expansion of the MATC Promise program, the launch of academic programs to form new career pathways for students, and joining the Moonshot for Equity. And whereas Ms. Wilson worked tirelessly to improve student well-being, enhance student housing, champion the Restart program, and support adult basic education programs across the district. And whereas Ms. Wilson also honorably served her community for more than 3 decades, especially as manager of the Hillside Family Resource Center for the Housing Authority of the City of Milwaukee. And whereas Ms. Wilson has been an exemplary representative of the district board at numerous MATC student, employee, and community events. Therefore, be it resolved that the MATC district board, on its own behalf and that of the students and employees of MATC, gratefully acknowledge, thank, and honor Ann Wilson for her dedicated service and contributions to MATC. I think that deserves a round of applause.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a joy. It's been an absolute joy.
Would you like to say something, Director Wilson?
Yeah, can you hear me?
He can hear you, yes.
Okay, I said it's been an absolute joy. It's just been big fun. There's been some challenges, but boy, has it been big fun and some great board members. It took a while, I'm sure Director Baker can attest to, but we finally got a board that could work together, get together, and do a wonderful job. And needless to say, Doc Martin, boy, bless you. Know I tell you all the time, bless your heart, honey. Couldn't be me, but you do a wonderful job. And I just want you to know, all to know, I appreciate you, especially Chair Foley, who I could get on his nerves worse than anybody. I know, but that's all right. He was always genuine and kind, and I'm gonna miss you all, but I will be around, and you know that. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think Dr. Martin would like to share a few things with you, Director Wilson.
I don't know where to look. I think it's over there. So, Director Wilson, and thank you so much for all your years of service. Really, so much gratitude from all of us here at the college for all the hard work that you put in over that time. It certainly hasn't been easy, but your dedication, your wise counsel, your advice, and always your openness to talk and discuss the issues that matter most to our students and to our college. I will be forever grateful for the service that you have provided to this college, and I appreciate all the support that you gave me, especially I remember that first night when I became interim president, you were right there, and so I truly thank you, and I know that everyone here appreciates everything that you've done for our college. And I'm glad you'll be in touch, and you're right down the road. So
Oh, I definitely will.
So, there's a big cake here for you. But
There is. We'll have to get you a cake and your plaque.
Lauren Baker has been assigned to get that cake to me.
Oh.
And that's only because she lives closer than the rest of you. So count your blessings.
Lana signed me at the beginning.
Got it.
Okay.
I got it. So anybody else who would like to have that opportunity to share well wishes of who have served on there? Okay, we do have a plaque also for Director Hamilton. My understanding he is still going to try to, he's not going to be here. So we will get him his plaque. His has a very similar, but this is from Director Hamilton, a very similar plaque. And for those of you who know that he has served on here since 2016. So he served on here for 6 years. So we also appreciate his service. And even though he's not here, I think it deserves a round of applause. I think I did mention when Director Foley asked that we have 2 new directors who will be joining us, and one is in the audience. So Director, I guess it's 2B or whatever that is. Bria Burris is with us, and she will be joining us. And then also, I think online is Representative or Director to be Moore Amakunde. Yes, he's on. Yes, is on there. Mute. So we welcome both of them. We'll have a board retreat, which is my next item here. So on Monday, June 11th, we do have a board reorganizational meeting, which is a board meeting at 4 o'clock. Very brief for that. And that is in person, and that's the meeting in which officers are elected for the next fiscal year. But shortly following that, after we adjourn that meeting, we will be going into a board retreat at that time. And so our new directors will be joining us at that point also on Monday, June 11th for that. And so the executive director, July, what did I say? June. Okay, how about let's not do June since it's already in the past and I don't have a time machine to go backwards. So how about July? Yes. So, and our facilitator will be Paul Gabriel. Some of you know him. He is the executive director of the Wisconsin Technical College System Foundation, and he was the former executive director of the District Boards Association. So he will be working with us to facilitate that retreat on July 11th. So we look forward to that as we welcome our new board members also at that time. Another announcement that on July 21st through the 23rd, the Wisconsin Technical College District Boards Association will have its meeting, and it is in Wausau at North Central Technical College. They are hosting it, and this focus of that is the student experience. And I'm guessing they also have virtual attendance for that in the combination that we've had. So if you are not unable to take the trip up to Wausau, the virtual attendance is also an option for you. And Director Case, will you please give our foundation report as our board liaison?
I would be happy to. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. The MATC Foundation Board held their annual meeting on Thursday, June 9th. At this meeting, the board approved the FY 22-23 budget, which includes investments to increase capacity for the foundation and college to manage increased activity in awarding scholarships and raising funds to support students. During this meeting, the board also acted to elect its FY 22-23 Board of Directors and the new slate of officers. There was a term limit override granted to Juliana Ebert, who served as the co-chair to the inaugural MATC Promise campaign. The board re-elected both Susan Lubar and Tracy Lubar for a second 3-year term. There are 16 members of the MATC Foundation Board of Directors with a diverse composition. 56% of members are women. 44% of the members identify as people of color, 19% are small business owners, and 44% work for companies with corporate headquarters or significant number of employees in the district. The slate of officers for the 22-23 fiscal year are President Juliana Ebert, who is a retired partner for Quarles and Brady. Vice President is Chantal Bird, who serves as Vice President Shared Services at Manpower. Vice President Jamie Berger, who owns The Box, an event venue space downtown. Treasurer is Matt Partridge, who serves as Vice President of Finance, Ambulatory and Ancillary Services at Froedtert Hospital. And the Secretary is Susan Lubar, who is the founder and president of Growing Minds. As of June 2022, the foundation has secured $3.66 million towards a $3 million goal, or 122% of goal. We have successfully surpassed the goal of increasing the number of donors from 399 in fiscal year 21 to 442 as of June 10th. Finally, the district board members would like to make a contribution. If the district board members would like to make a contribution to support MATC students before the fiscal year ends, please make a contribution at matc.edu/donate by June 30th. And we thank you for your support. And that concludes my update.
Great, thank you. And that is the end of the chairperson's report. So I'm going to now turn over to Dr. Martin for the president's report.
Well, good evening. This month, 89 seniors from our M-Cubed program, and that's UW-Milwaukee and Milwaukee Public Schools. We have a program called College Connections, dual enrollment program. And those seniors graduated, and some of them up to 21 credits from both MATC and UWM. Our graduates from that program are more likely to go on directly to college than the national average. And this was the largest class that we've had so far. And this program is really gaining momentum. And we're finding more and more students who are interested in gaining these credits, free credits, while in high school. On May 26th, we had 8 men who earned certificates in our welding fundamentals through our MATC Second Chance Pell Program, which provides federal aid to people in state and federal prisons so they can receive post-secondary education while incarcerated. MATC, as you remember, is the first college in our state that had the Pell Second Chance Program, and Madison followed, and now Marine Park has it as well. And so we're grateful to Dr. Sadiq Isahaku and his faculty and staff who made this possible. We're also participating in Summerfest Show Your College Pride Day promotion. If you wear MATC gear, a hat, t-shirt, whatever, you can get into Summerfest free on Friday, July 8th from noon to 3 at the Midgate Promotions booth. And our recruiters will be there from MATC, so you can stop by and say hi to them if you go. And then just this morning, on behalf of the college, I did accept a check for almost $50,000 for the Military Pathways Training Grant, which was awarded to us by Secretary Dawn Krim of the Department of Safety and Professional Services. We were the only ones selected in the state, so we're pretty happy about that. And so with this grant, MATC will be able to assess individual military experience and military occupational specialties for course credit, which is credit for prior learning, which is really great, for 6 of our high-paying and in-demand programs to ensure licensure for civilian careers. I'd like to thank Wesley Walker, who was at the event, to help me accept the check, as well as the whole team in Student Services for their work on this particular grant. On a management update, I want to report that MATC is conducting weekly active shooter workshops throughout the summer as part of its ongoing preparedness education for employees and staff. We do this on a regular basis, and of course, it's more critical than ever, given what's happening across our nation. On Saturday, June 4th, MATC's Oak Creek campus hosted the Campus Car Show, the college's first in-person show since 2019. This is part of our MATC Drive program that spotlights family supporting career opportunities in our transportation servicing sector. And then due to an increase in cybersecurity threats nationwide, our cybersecurity insurer requests that the college implement a multi-factor authentication process for all MATC email users. The board and just receiver, you should be receiving an email on how to complete enrollment. We will have an IT employees available before the board meeting, the organizational meeting in July, to assist you with any installation help you need. I needed help, so you may need help as well to get that done, but it's really easy once it's installed. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next up for reports is our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion report by Eva Martina Paulus.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Hope everyone is doing well. I am happy to report today on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Plan. It was about a year ago when I joined the the MATC community. And when I began here, people were asking me, what is the 90-day plan? What is the 6-month plan? What is the 1-year plan? Well, I am happy to give a report today on a 5-year Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion plan for the college. Okay, there you go. Thank you. So today's presentation will include a brief snapshot of the Equity and Inclusion plan, beginning with the approach that we took in developing the plan, but then also providing a brief summary of some of the audits that we had in place to gather information for the plan. And also I will outline the pillars that will serve as a guide and roadmap for the next 5 years. In your materials for today's meeting, you should have received a copy of the DI plan. Next slide, please. So before I discuss the plan, I'd like to acknowledge all those who came before me. There has been a lot of very special teams, committees, and people before I arrived at MATC, and I'd like to thank the Diversity Council, the DEI Committee, and the Hispanic Serving Institution Committee for all of their efforts developing strategies to address equity gaps. Also, thanks to the President's Task Force for contributing to the development of the plan, and thanks to community members, students, faculty, and staff for sharing their experiences, insights, and recommendations. Thanks to my co-chair, El Banz, and Kathleen Lawson for their support and collaboration as we develop the plan. Next slide, please. It is important to know that the DI plan was highly influenced by the work of the President's Task Force. We implemented a three-phase approach to really better understand the MATC experience and the MATC DEI story in particular. During the phase one, we engaged in a data gathering process where we really went into fully understanding and also gathering data and also gathering information related to the current initiatives and efforts at MATC related to equity, diversity, and inclusion. In phase two, we came together to share and discuss the needs of the MATC community, and we also considered the data available to us. In phase three of the process, we developed our recommendations, and then we also built a lot of these recommendations on previous work at the college and best practices in higher education. It was important for us to engage in this process that brought together employees, students, faculty from various functions and teams across the college. Next slide, please. So the audit focused on gathering information across the district. We wanted to know what are the current and existing interventions related to the student experience, the employee experience, instruction, and assessment. Conducting the audit was a critical step in better understanding the MATC DI story. It is important to know that throughout the audits and throughout the work of the President's Task Force, we centered the notion of racial equity in our conversations, dialogue, and processes. The process provided opportunities for deeper dialogue and conversation about the current efforts that existed at MATC and how those efforts centered the experiences and lived realities of Black, Indigenous, and people of color for both students and employees. The audit, along with equity data, provided evidence for the need to create and sustain intentional high-impact practices that focus on the recruitment, enrollment, persistence, retention, and graduation rates for Black students, students of color, and historically underrepresented populations. For example, the data shows that Black, Hispanic, and Native American students continue to struggle academically, and that is the first bucket on the student experience. The second bucket, the employee experience, we know that we have created significant opportunities in the last year, such as the employee affinity groups, also the flexible work arrangements, and we still have work to do in this area when it comes to our culture and our climate and the student experience. Regarding instruction and assessment, the audit shows that we have work to do in the academics, in order to improve faculty diversity and also the student experience in the classroom. As we look at the audit and we look at the information that we were gathering, we found that there were 53 student initiatives, 29 employee initiatives, and 27 initiatives in the academics focused on equity and inclusion. However, most of the initiatives were a one-size-fits-all philosophy, but did not really address the needs of specific populations. Although we disaggregate data, student data by race, where disparities exist, many of the interventions are not really focused on the different student populations. Next slide, please. As we were looking at the data, we were very conscious that we needed to center racial equity throughout the DEI plan. The slide that you see in front of you are the pillars for change, and we are looking forward to focusing for the next 5 years on 4 different pillars. That the first one includes climate, and that is #1 goal, and that goal is welcoming an inclusive community. The second is employee experience, and our goal is to have a diverse community. The third is student experience, and our goal is to have an equitable community. And the fourth is institutional commitment, and our goal is to become an anti-racist community. So when you look at the pillars for change within the DEI plan, these are it. This is what was going to really help us move the needle in many of the different areas that we've been discussing in the last year as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So for example, under each of these goals, you will find different objectives attached with metrics and measures to be able to understand if we're moving the needle or not. Some of these metrics will include really looking at the data, but then also looking at the climate study for students and the climate study for employees as well as our pay surveys and other surveys that we have in place for both students and employees. If you look at the pillars as well, you will find that it is also very focused on our students. I think the heart of the development of the DEI plan is really centered on the student experience. I think the DEI plan itself is really highlights the reasons why we need to continue to work in these efforts, why we need to continue to become a more welcoming and inclusive community. And while understanding that we do have a rich history and rich diversity here at MATC. Next slide, please. Wanted to highlight the last steps, not the last steps, I'm sorry, the next steps in the DEI plan. We plan to develop a communications strategy throughout the summer and fall semester. We plan to take the DEI plan on the road, which means hosting stakeholder sessions beginning this summer and also early fall to be able to work with students and faculty members as they return back to MATC. Also, we will begin the implementation phase this summer. And as you probably noted in some of the DEI objectives, some of the strategies are already in progress and already taking place. And also, we will make sure that we are beginning our check phase next summer, summer 2023. Thank you. This concludes my updates on the DEI plan, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Director Foley.
Two, if I may. One of your pillars, I can't remember the exact title, but was essentially the vision of the institution. Thank you. Oh, now I can't read it, right? Institutional commitment. Goal for anti-racist community. Thank you, Director. That's both a generic term and a loaded politicalized term because of the book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, and all that engendered in terms of opposition. And I'm wondering in which sense the term is being used here is the first question. And parenthetically, whether that's a good idea. And then I have a completely unrelated second question if I can afterwards, but
Yeah.
let's do the hard one first.
Sounds good. Well, throughout last year, we a group of 100 of us attended the e-convenings through the USC Race and Equity Center. And in the e-convenings, it was very clear that as we are beginning our plans for DEI, that we need to be race conscious. And what that means is that we need to center racial equity in our efforts to truly begin to move the needle when it comes to recruitment, enrollment, and graduation rates of our students of color in particular. So when we say that we want to become an anti-racist community, we say that we want to make sure that we are implementing the 10 key priorities of anti-racism for colleges and institutions. And those 10 key priorities come from NADOKI, which is the National Association for Chief Diversity Officers in the nation, is the leading CDO organization that really outlines a lot of the work in the Journal of Higher Ed for Diversity Issues. And when we talk about anti-racism, we know that in this history in particular, and I alluded to this previously, and I believe in the last board meeting, that in the United States, our foundations are built for us to really be thinking about how different practices and policies and processes may privilege some, right, and may oppress others. We have to really think about, when we are developing and implementing the key strategies, thinking about the foundations of the United States, who we are, the histories behind our students of color, what they bring to the table, in making sure that as we are reviewing practices and policies, that we are race conscious, understanding that, making sure that race is not an issue. When our students are coming in, when our students are interacting in the classroom, when our students are registering for classes. We want to make sure that all of our students have access to everything and that race doesn't become an issue. At least that's the way I see it when it comes to racial equity for our students, that we want to make sure that our policies are not perpetuating systems of oppression, particularly for our students of color.
You just referenced 10 key goals for anti-racist colleges. I'm not sure if that's the exact title. Is that something you can share with us?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, it is in your appendices. If you look at Appendix G, all the links are there.
Thank you.
Yes.
If I may?
Yep.
The second unrelated question. You were talking about having stakeholder sessions at MATC. And I just ask you to consider whether one or more of those should be somewhere other than at MATC. I think one of the issues in terms of expanding enrollment in the Black community is that we seem somewhat separated from that community. And if we were to go into the community for those, we would probably get, in my view, we'd probably get the same students that would have done it if we did it here, but we might also get some others that would be interested in hearing about the institution in a way that encourages them to take steps forward toward us in the future.
Absolutely. That is a great idea. Noted.
Dr. Baker.
So I'm going to circle back to Director Foley's first point and compliment the team and yourself on that pillar. When I first met you last year, we sat across the table from each other and you talked that you were just starting and we were talking about the work. And I said, I'm missing vocabulary that I'm used to in institutions discussing anti-racist curriculum and teaching practices, and coming out of K-12 and have worked at MPS a lot. I'm very familiar with that world. And you said that that was a direction, and I'm extremely happy to see that sort of institutionalized commitment on our part. We have a far way to go, and one institution will not change the experience of people of color in this community, but we can do a tremendous amount to recognize the experience, as you were just saying, and to eliminate the barriers within our own institution, or work in the direction to eliminate those barriers and be very conscious of them. So I looked through in the attachment here some of the strategies in that goal 4, and I'm very excited to see that move forward. And I think the board can play an affirmative role in helping the college in that way.
Thank you.
Do you remember that conversation? Probably not. That's okay. Don't worry.
But I'm glad that you brought it up. I'm happy.
I remember
Yes.
that. So I was super happy. To see
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes. First on Director Foley's second comment, I would like to offer the Resource Center if you ever needed to hold a meeting. That's my first thing. Second one is the Office of Equity and Inclusion. We constantly need to expand it. Funding, we constantly need to continue to fund it. The commitment must be to it and follow up around every corner, because see, I could not believe until about 2 weeks ago that everybody wants to know, you got an Office of Equity and Inclusion, you got somebody. It's almost like a fad. It's not a fad, it's not a checkbox, it's for real. And if everybody, and especially the board, is not committed to it, it's gonna go by the wayside. She can't do that by herself. She can't do it with another person to help her. And it really is the board's responsibility to ensure that it goes on and that it's carried on and that it's funded and anything else they need, because this is not a joke. We're living in a time where things are really bad, and really bad for people of color. And MATC can be the role model. They can be the everything for the city of Milwaukee. And that's all I'm asking when I leave, is that y'all don't let it drop.
Thank you. If I may say an additional
Sure.
comment or update, Thank you so much, Director Wilson. I also would like to thank you for your participation in the President's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Your voice was definitely impactful and much appreciated. I also wanted to say that this plan is one of the key infrastructures for diversity, equity, and inclusion at MATC. We will be hosting our inaugural DEI office opening sometime this summer, possibly in August. We have our funding that has been supported by Dr. Martin. So we have that funding in place. And I am also happy to report that the team has been assembled for the DEI office. So we have these 4 key ingredients. Now this upcoming 2 years, we need to really build this infrastructure for success. So that way we could continue to move the needle in different ways at MATC. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your leadership.
Any other comments or questions that anybody else has? Okay, thank you very much. And we have Dr. Adams who will be sharing with us an enrollment report.
Good evening, everyone. The first slide, when Lynn pulls that up, is just simply a recap of what we've done for this past academic year, 2022. But I'm happy to move on to the second slide, which is our summer enrollment. And as of today, we have met our budgeted goal for summer. And as of the date that we presented the information to you, we were at 695 attained FTE, but as of today, we are actually at 707 attained FTE. So we are at 103% of our summer. I'm very happy to tell you that. And very happy to say thank you to everyone. The college has played a tremendous role in us getting our FTEs. It has definitely been a college effort. We're continuing to work with our students and to get them enrolled for the fall semester, the next spring. And right now, where we're at for fall, as of the date of this report, we were at 1727 attained FTE for fall, but as of today, we are actually at 1863 attained FTE for fall. So we're continuing to work on that. We have a total of 2,570 FTE towards our overall goal of 8,300. We're continuing to have services to our direct from high school students, special enrollment events for them. We're continuing to do some community one-stop enrollment events, as well as continuing to invite our students in and to serve those students and their parents. I'm happy to say that we've been seeing tours throughout the hallways this summer, which is so different from the past 2 years. We're actually seeing the students and their parents. I had one student the other day, the student came in, he had his parents and his grandmother was with him. So he was very happy going into our engineering programs. He was very happy about that. And I wanted to share just a little bit, the final slide, I wanted to share a little bit about what our course section offerings look like. And the reason we wanted to share that is because we do believe that the modality of our classes and our class offerings also play a role in our students enrolling. So, and as we can see from this slide, we have our online virtual sections. We have about 376 of those. We have blended and hybrid sections, 130, and we have face-to-face sections, including our high flex, 155th. So totally, and this is just for our summer enrollment, total we have 661 sections. We have 61 sections that were 1 to 3 weeks in length, 597 that were 4 to 8 weeks, and 3 sections that were 9 to 12 weeks. We believe that this plays a role in how and why our students, some of our students enroll here, because what we're doing is we're showing them flexibility. We're giving them the flexibility that they need to meet their other responsibilities outside of here. And I just wanted to say, just in case you didn't know, High Flex is like a hybrid flexible course design model. It combines face-to-face learning where students are able to attend during their scheduled class times, or they can choose not to attend during scheduled class times, but have the opportunity to view the class content after the class session. So that's a lot of flexibility we believe that we're able to give to our students. So are there any questions or anything about any of this? Yes.
One of the earlier slides said that the retention from the spring session was up 10-point-something%.
As of now, the students.
Okay. What is the retention rate?
The overall retention rate,
The overall retention rate from our spring session to,
retention to fall.
I don't know if it should be measured by retention to now or retention to the fall. And I'm not sure what that 10% number
Okay.
means either.
The 10% number right now, what that means is at this exact date last year at this time, this is how many students we had, and this is how many students we have
Okay.
right now. And these are students that are returning from the spring 2020 semester that actually registered into our summer semester, and then that number that actually registered into our fall semester that were here in spring 2022.
Okay, so
And that
what's
number
the,
does change every
what's,
day.
what's the overall retention rate at this point from the spring into either the summer or re-registration? for the fall?
I do not have that direct number with me. We can get that number for you.
Okay, I think that's the number we want to
Okay.
focus on in the future, as opposed to how much better are we doing than we did during the pandemic or in coming out of the pandemic. I would like to forget about the pandemic as soon as possible. And if we're going to rebuild our enrollment, it's got to be focused on what's the total percentage of it.
We can do that.
Thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Good to see our summer enrollment numbers. That's a positive sign. Hopefully it's a signal of things to come also. I would like to next call on Bodan Zachary for the Milwaukee PBS General Manager's Report.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair Olson, board members, Dr. Martin. I have a little PowerPoint tonight, and we'll start with the first slide after this one, which is a look at our financials as of May 31. With the FY22 fiscal year almost completed, I begin my report today with the success of Milwaukee PBS's advancement area. We are reporting another stellar financial year, and here are the highlights that are current as of May 31. I think the big top line is that we've exceeded the FY22 budgeted goal, 6.1 million, which is in the president's goals, and the final and the amount as of May 31, which I assume will go up before we conclude this month, is 6,393,291. I think the most dramatic jump we saw is the last line, which is planned giving. That's one you can't necessarily count on. You can set a goal, but who leaves you in a will and what you raise. So it's an 800% plus rise. So obviously we're budgeting up this year. This is attributable to, yes, people leaving us in their wills. We've also started reaching out to people, and we had dozens and dozens of folks come to us after we started a campaign to say, consider us in your will, asking for materials so they could share it with their financial counselors. And so that's the result of what happened from that campaign. So we're looking forward to this new fiscal year, and we're actually going to raise our goal for the president's goals in the coming fiscal year. So yes.
Can you just, the second line, I don't understand.
Yeah, I think
Numbers
I
are
think
transposed.
I
Oh, the numbers
sorry,
are
yes,
transposed? Okay.
I was typing and I think I flipped that one. So
That's okay. Thank you.
Shows we're paying attention.
yes.
I've already told them I was a-
So now on to an event we had, which I'm really excited about. It was really, really good. So the Brand Lab is a nonprofit that is out of Minneapolis, St. Louis, and now Milwaukee. And last week, Milwaukee PBS and MATC hosted an event here, a day-long event, in fact. It's a nonprofit that introduces BIPOC high school students to marketing and other similar career possibilities. The Milwaukee Brand Lab leaders, Kwaku Tiangelo Cargile Jr. and Imani Ray, contacted Black Nouveau producer Everett Marshburn and me, and in turn, I reached out to our MATC colleagues to be part of the effort. Next slide, please. Milwaukee PBS hosted 17 engaged high school students and staff and our staff members, Kim Sosa, Tracy Newman, Chris Mikulski, Jason Pinkowski, Jeff Morbeck, along with recent MATC graduate Cassius Henry, talked about careers in television. Next slide, please. These are the students in our studio. Next slide, please. This is, we split them up and went into Jason's and Jeff's editing rooms, and they just loved the editing part. Next slide, please. So after the 90-minute session at Milwaukee PBS, Dr. Reggie Parks from the MATC Transportation Center, Drew Van Wyck from MATC's Creative Media and Art Program, and Michael Lozano, MATC Bilingual Recruiter, took the excited students to see the rest of the MATC, which included a big presentation at the Hervis Automotive Center. From all the reports we've received back, the day-long event was a rousing success, and I want to thank everyone at Milwaukee PBS and MATC who participated. This also served as a great dry run, and I think we are now in place to do more of these kind of joint efforts to engage high school students. I was very excited to see their enthusiasm for what we do. So that's it about the Brand Lab. And now, so this is the part where I was going to say, I want to invite Brian MacArthur to join me at the table. Unfortunately, as we were walking down here, Brian got a call. He had a family emergency and he could not attend. And I'm really sorry you're not meeting him because he's a stellar person and colleague. And so he's the Milwaukee PBS Manager of Engineering and Technical Facilities. The station relies on Brian's expertise and commitment to providing the best experience for viewers and for MATC television and video production students as well. Brian is retiring in a few days after 42 years at MATC and Milwaukee PBS. And I'd like you to know a little bit about him. He was going to be here with me. He came to MATC in the fall of 1978 and was a student in the Electrical Technology Communication Program, which regrettably doesn't exist anymore, but that's where he learned what he is so expert at. After graduating, he joined MPTV, which is what the station was called at the time. He moved into engineering management in 2008 and became manager of engineering and technical facility. He's worked closely with many departments at MATC over the years, and he's been a mentor and friend to many of us. Most recently, Brian was key to helping set up the shared master control operation with the Educational Communication Board in Madison that you approved. That operation will go into effect next February, and thanks to your support and Dr. Martin's support. So for 42 years of service to MATC, Milwaukee PBS, and the greater Milwaukee community, I'm grateful to Brian MacArthur, and I wish him well. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Can I ask, in the Brand Lab, how were the students selected for that, or?
Tiangelo, Quago Tiangelo was working with us in advance, and I think what they do is they set them up with internships. And so I know Al's going to be speaking to them to see what we might be able to do here at MATC. And he just said, we're going to do day one of our workshop week with them at Marquette. You're going to be day number 2. And they all showed up in the lobby and then came up, and we just had this great time.
Yeah.
And they were many of them were very into technology. So they very much understood the nuts and bolts of television production. But each of our staff members talked about how they got into TV, which is sometimes kind of an unexpected trek that we take to get into TV. So it was really terrific. And having the MATC part was perfect because we did 90 minutes and then our colleagues from MATC were there and then they took them off for the rest of the day.
Yeah, and that's why I commented, because I think that I can see that being very engaging for students. Is you always have to have this right balance of visits with that. And, you know, as I was sitting here, I could, in the world that I work in, find that very fascinating, and a lot of students having that right balance, hands-on, and getting to see behind the scenes, if you will, because they can all affiliate with that. So
I'm happy to share. We got reports of what they thought of which program, and it was all really good.
Yeah.
They were really excited about Westtown housing. And and they learned about the Promise program and learned about all the ways that they could come to MATC.
Yeah, I thought that was a very innovative and new way of looking at that and then linking into the MATC. So that's why I feel like
Yeah.
programs like that could be the gateway.
Yeah, and I
to
think
getting more
Dr. Martin, because
students
I
in.
was mentioning it in our one-on-one, and she said, what a great opportunity to bring MATC. So I went to Dr. Nadine Gonzalez de Jesus, and suddenly we had everybody working together on this event.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next, we have our legislative matters, and in person, we have Remy Zelenkova, who's with us.
Thank you. Good evening. As we all know, I indicated in my prior reports, the legislature's in session, so much quieter in Madison right now with the focus on the elections. We certainly know we have a number of competitive races, both in August and November. So we'll wait to see what the outcome in those races look like. And of course, that could impact next legislative session, but we will proceed moving forward, waiting to see what happens in November. With that being said, there are several state updates I wanted to share with the board this evening. First and foremost, Governor Evers did release his budget instructions for the 2023-25 annual budget. Very generic at this point, just some basic instructions telling agency heads that while we are very fiscally strong in the state of Wisconsin, watch the spending levels because we'll see how the economy moves forward over the next couple of months and throughout the next year. Very early stages there as the agencies look to develop their budget requests, which they'll submit to the governor in September for his consideration, and then he will develop his budget from there. Certainly the November election could change that. If we have a new governor, then we have a new administration, and that dynamic will change. I also want to mention 3 specific issues. First, I was thinking maybe Bodan would have mentioned this afternoon. That's okay, I'll have you fill in the specifics. Last week, the Joint Committee on Finance approved 2 positions for the Educational Communications Board, which is necessary for MATC to enter into a contract with the ECB to provide master services control for Milwaukee PBS. If there are specific questions on that, I got a quick review of all of those dynamics just a couple of weeks ago, but we were pleased to see the Finance Committee approving those positions. There's a statutory requirement that the positions need to be approved by the Finance Committee. Members can object. We were fortunate to see those positions approved, recognizing that in the current budget, positions were actually eliminated. So we were pleased to see that. We also have our own Dr. Sadiq Haku serving yet again on a special study committee on increasing offender employment opportunities. He served before on one of these committees in the past. Certainly, as was mentioned tonight, his work with Second Pell and everything the college has done in this space made him a good candidate for the committee. So he was selected among several other private members to serve on that committee and in the process of scheduling meetings for the remainder of the year. So we'll be supporting him in that effort for the rest of the year. I mentioned in a prior report that the committee comprised of both elected officials and private members. We'll invite speakers, take testimony. They're supported by nonpartisan agency staff to develop proposals to then put forward to the legislature for consideration to advance in the specific scope area. So we'll see how that committee moves forward for the remainder of the year. A second committee that we'll want to monitor, that I'll be monitoring, will be on occupational licensing. A number of individuals are looking at that space, looking at existing licensing requirements for specific occupations. So that'll be another important one to look at as that's been a hot topic for a number of years in the state legislature. And last but not least, I'll just very briefly mention that at the federal level, the administration released a proposed rule on Title IX, which is specific to investigating cases of sexual assault, reporting requirements, et cetera, that was just released last week. And there'll be a separate study specific to student athletes, kind of to be determined, no additional information at that time. And so with that, I'll take any questions. Okay.
Thank you. Moving on to our board monitoring section of the agenda, and we have a pathway presentation on the business and management pathway by Dr. Dunbar and
Thank you,
Others.
Chairperson. So we shared the PowerPoint presentation with you with narration, and we'll be glad to address any questions that you may have. Let me just take only 1 minute to go over some key highlights. Did you want us to go over it?
No.
I wasn't sure, okay. So let me tell you, it's really a success story all the way for those who had a chance to listen to it. Otherwise, I would encourage you to do so. Let me start by talking about the diversity of the students first. Over 2/3 of our students are minority students here. By far, it's more on the high end of the students. Over 1/3 is African American, over 1/5 is Hispanics, and if you combine them, it's really the majority of the pathway. In addition to this, the faculty, we've hired a number of faculty, 9 of them to be exact. In fact, we have almost 80% are minorities. This is really making the institution look good in terms of recruiting and hiring faculty in some of these key areas. In addition to this, we have a lot of flexible options. And the reason for the growth that you see in some areas is the flexibility that we have. So between the online and the hybrid, that's about 95% or even 95% of the course offerings in the pathway. In addition to this, dual enrollment and transfer, we seem to be leading in this area. I mean, the transfer students to the UWM, other colleges, highly impressive. Over 2/3 actually of our students transfer from this program, or of the transfer students actually go to UWM. In addition to this, we have many other key initiatives. OER is one of them, and this is inclusive access, and we have over 60% of our courses utilizing this. 8-week courses, over 80%. I mean, I couldn't stop talking about this, but I tell you, it's good news all the way, success stories all the way. And at the end of the presentation, we have a success story by a student, which secured an internship at some point, moved on to secure a job with Northwestern Mutual as well. I'll stop here. We'll take any questions, and we'll be glad to address anything that you may have. Yes.
Why are you not surprised that I have questions?
No, we like your questions.
We've got a high rate of transfer students from this pathway to UWM in particular, before your colleges. How are they doing there? Do we know? Do we follow that to see if we are really preparing them as they need to be prepared to succeed once they do the transfer?
Sure. So there is a postgraduate study that UWM does, and at some point they shared their analysis with us. I don't have any recent data on this, but let me tell you what I know in the past, but we'll be glad to reach out to them.
How old is the data about the past?
I'm going to say, I think I saw the report about 3 or 4 years ago. But I was going to tell you that it shows the highest retention and persistence were among MATC students. And we can, like I said, reach back out to them and get you more updated.
I'd like to see that data on a regular basis. And again, I'd like to know not just comparisons to how students from other institutions do. I really, if we're doing better, that's great. But what I really want to know is that a very high percentage of our transfer students succeed wherever they go.
Sure.
And if we're not doing that, then we have to figure out why and what to do about it to improve. But unless we know the facts first, we don't really know whether we need to focus more resources there or not. Second, I've heard for decades.
And Dr. Foley, just for clarification, you want this institution-wide, not only in this particular pathway, generally?
Well, if it breaks down by particular pathways, that would be useful to know too. But
Okay.
yes, overall.
Okay.
Can I add a point? to
Sure,
that?
please.
So I know in the past,
Yes.
UWM would also often talk about overall first-generation college-going students and first-generation college-going students who came from MATC. That was like a big data point. So if you don't mind including that, I would appreciate
The more
that.
data, the merrier.
It's apples and apples, I think.
Yeah. The second thing is we've heard for decades about the importance of having instructors whose ethnicity and sometimes gender are the same as the students, how that is believed to have an impact on success. Are we tracking the effects? Now, we've got 44% of these new hires, which I assume means 4 out of 9, are Black males. I don't know what we're doing across the institution in that regard, but my question is, whatever we are doing in that regard, are we attempting to see whether the data supports the conclusion that having faculty of color makes a difference? If it doesn't, then we, again, we should figure out why not, or perhaps that theory is simply wrong and something else needs to be changed. But I maybe, again, this may be data that is or is not available, but I'd like to see that on a regular basis. There was a third question, but I've lost it now. So that's plenty of work for you to do for the next 6 months.
I was going to tell you, I'm not aware of any tracking data, that associates, the effectiveness of, African American or minority faculty to student success. But it doesn't mean that we don't have it, but it's not something that we track in the past. But I'll be glad to look into that and get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Did that give you enough time to think about the third question?
I've lost it. I'll think of it before the next time we see you, which will undoubtedly be in about a month.
And I really want to attribute the success of this pathway to the dean of this pathway, soon to be Dr. Carl Meredith. He's shown so much leadership, solid leadership all the way. I mean, really growth in many key areas, connection, partnerships, you name it. And truly, it made so much difference, not only for the pathway, but the students and the community.
I just want to say, and I've said this before, but one of the reasons that I was so much in support of implementing guided pathways was because it took no prisoners about what number mattered, which was the student success number. Mm-hmm. When you're evaluating individual performance, things like partnerships, outreach, and this and this and this and that are all indicators of excellent effort. But in the end, the only thing that matters is the student success rate.
Correct.
Because we can spin our wheels doing all sorts of things that seem like they ought to help, but don't. That's the history of mankind. After 7 years on this wonderful board, I'm really eager to get past the pandemic and say, how many students are succeeding here and how do we increase that number? Because that's what matters. So yes, all this other stuff is important. I understand that. And it's great to hear that it's going on. But what I want to hear from the numbers is, we've got this program, we implemented it. What's it doing? Are we graduating successful people, successful academically, but also after they leave here?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Dean Meredith, anything that you want to add?
Like exit interviews.
Beyond that, I'm talking about employment, everything else.
We just need to track them from the time they come in until.
They die.
Okay. Want to chip them?
There was a program in the early 1990s called the Youth at Risk Program.
Yeah.
And I know about this because I tried to bring it to Milwaukee and failed. But one of the things they did is they set up control groups for their program. So they were dealing with high school students that were deemed to be at risk of dropping out, joining gangs, alcohol and drug abuse, getting arrested. There were like 15 different criteria, and they did follow the students who went through these programs for 5 years after graduation. So sometimes it was 7 or 8 years of following them on all of those statistics. And of course, it gets harder to keep those statistics accurate as you go on, sure, but they were able to demonstrate that the difference between having gone through this program as a junior or senior in high school and not having gone through it 5 years later was 100% better on the good measures and 100% lower on the bad measures. They were having impacts across the board that were measurable. And it was everything from employment, the level of that employment. Are you doing minimum wage at the local fast food place, or are you moving on? Did you go to college? Did you graduate from college? Not just did you get in? Encounters with police, arrest records, and it's a huge amount of data, and I know we don't have it all. But I would like to be able to look anybody in the city in the eye and say, we know from the numbers that what we are doing is changing communities, changing lives. That's our vision statement. And I think we have a lot of anecdotal evidence about that. I don't know that we really have good hard data about that. The closer we can get to that, the happier you will make me and the fewer questions I will have going forward. So thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I have a much simpler one. I was looking at the articulations and do we still have agreements with HBCUs, and is this a program where we have students go to HBCUs?
Yes, that's still an active partnership with them. Yes.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't see that in the partnerships.
Maybe it's a number of students that transfer, so we track the top, transfer. So it is there, but maybe the numbers aren't.
I see a hand popping up. behind you.
Yeah, may
Oh,
I- yes, we currently do not have any active partnerships with HBCUs.
Thank you.
So one of the objectives of the DI plan is to reestablish those partnerships.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to say something? I'm really sorry.
No, I'm good. I appreciate the opportunity to present information about our pathway and appreciate your questions. I think they're valid questions. And definitely taking notes here, and we'll get after it. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for putting together the presentation in advance so we could watch that and come prepared with questions that we have. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
Our next item then is new business. Director Foley.
I would like us to add in the new business for the next time around the questions that were raised by our public commentator at the beginning of the meeting. Do we need to do something different around providing more resources, or how we administer the resources we have for emergency student support of various kinds? And I'd like to hear more about, if it was a change in policy, whether or not it was a change in policy, what is the policy about re-enrollment? Where does that policy, when you owe a balance?
Okay. So would you like information prior to that on, should we be asking administration to provide us that, so we have that background information and then decide from there the discussion around it?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I'd like.
Okay. There is nothing else. We'll move on to the future events and announcements. As a reminder, on July 11th, I have my month right now, Dr. Mace, at 4 o'clock, we have our board organizational meeting here, and then we will move into our retreat. And Director Foley, just for you, we spent this last week planning that retreat, which is, correct, Dr. Manion, a lot around what data does the board need to move forward. So you will see that. That is a very key piece of the work, as I've been talking to Dr. Manion throughout the year about that, and how can we have consistent data and not one-off every meeting and sort of like, taking wherever we're going at it. How can we get consistent stuff and sort of keep focused on the big numbers that we should be focused on, rather than things that might take us off there? So how do we do that, and how do we put that together? So that is some of the work that we'll be looking at on the day. So that was a great lead in that you did there. Which I'm sure you knew. And then just a reminder, the Wisconsin Technical College District Boards Association did. We talked about it at North Central Technical College in Wausau. For those who are interested, please, when that comes out, sign up for that in July.
Could I just make one comment about that?
Sure.
There are 3 days of things around these quarter meetings for the District Boards Association. Thursday night, there is a reception and people go out to dinner together, which is good for the interactions. But Friday is always the day where there are substantive presentations. And then Saturday is the committee meetings and the intense discussions about the bylaws and the budgets or what have you. The things on Friday can be identified in advance as to what they're going to be, and they are being made available on Zoom. So even if you don't want to attend or can't attend, you could watch those if they are on a subject that you're interested in, and I'll make sure that that information is available to you. I know it's hard take a day to drive up to Wausau and come back. I mean, there's a day of travel time there, basically. And Saturday morning can be pretty darn, I'll leave the adjectives to you.
Riveting.
Riveting, yes, riveting. And I did take on the task of proposing revisions to all their bylaws. So, you know, that will really be riveting.
Wow.
They're so lucky to have you.
We'll see. If
And I'm
anybody
sure they
agrees
all
with
feel
me,
that
I'm
way.
fixing it.
Director Wilson, did you have a
Yes.
question?
Yes, and I know that I'm leaving, but Director Foley, there are sometimes board members who can't take weekdays off, but would maybe like to hear what was going on. Do they record that? And if not, is there a suggestion? Could you make one? Because people who are, some of them aren't as fortunate as some of us were to get off on a weekday.
I believe they are recorded, and I'll make sure that they are.
Good.
Available.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you
and
so much.
Okay, that's all the new business. And so this is the final farewell, Director Wilson. You're finally in our open session. We do have closed session though, so we'll take a pause that. So I believe Director Case, do we have a motion to move into closed session?
Would
Yes.
you like for me to leave?
No, I wanted you to stay. I just wanted to acknowledge that this was your last open session.
Okay, all right.
No, I need you to stay on.
I know, I might have a little bit to say before I go.
Yes.
So one more question. Do we get out of this and go somewhere else, or we just sit here?
I'm gonna let Beth and Gwen take care of you as soon as we get adjourned into closed session, because we'll have a little bit of a break for those of us who've been sitting for a little bit of a while, so.
We're gonna eat your cake, yeah.
Yeah. So, Director Case.
I move that the district board convene into closed session pursuant to section 19.851C and E of the Wisconsin statutes to discuss item 11A, president's contract and compensation. The board may reconvene into open session to take action on matters discussed in closed session under item 11A if necessary.
Do I have a second?
second,
So we have a motion by Director Case and second by Director Foley to move into closed session, and we need a roll call vote for that.
Director Mays,
Aye.
Director Wilson,
Aye.
Director Baker. Aye. Director Case,
Aye.
Director Diaz,
Aye.
Director Foley,
aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos,
Aye.
and Director Olson.
Aye. So, thank you all. Can we take, I was just trying to think, can we